Yo, welcome back, children of the covenant. I am so glad you guys can join. I have made promises to improve video and audio quality, and today is that day. I hope this is so much better for you guys because it was not good on the pocketbook. Anyway, welcome back, and today we are talking about a very special car. Now, if you're a car guy, you are probably an anime fan, and if you're not now, you probably have been or will be in the future. Just take my word for it. I was a huge mocker and scoffer of anime weebs because I thought they were super weird and cringe, and they are. However, there's nothing wrong with liking a certain art form, and Initial D is what taught me that. And when you think of Initial D, you probably think of a Toyota ae86 doing toga drifts down the mountains and a cup of water that never spills a drop. It's gold. Even if you've never seen Initial D, you have seen edits of it on Instagram and TikTok. And if you're a car enthusiast like myself, there is no way on earth that you have not immediately taken to the internet to see how much this costs and then just be devastated by the absolute monstrosity of a price that they're charging for a 40-year-old Corolla. It's absurd. It's absurd. Now I get it's the last generation to have the rear-wheel drive manual inline four longitudinally mounted setup for a Toyota Corolla. Even still, it's the Toyota Corolla. Now I also understand that people want to have an authentic car memorabilia from one of their favorite TV shows, and I honestly understand and respect that. I really do. One day I hope I can have a RX-7 FD for the same reason, because of Tokyo Drift. But regardless, most of us average people who love motorsport but are also too broke to really spend that amount of money on an old Corolla can't justify it, but we still love the way it looks, right? It's not just the fact that it was in a TV show. It's a super dope car. And so I think I found perhaps the best predecessor, precursor, and doppelganger to the Toyota ae86 that we as Americans and all around the world have access to. Now, it's from a small Japanese truck company that's not so small anymore, but it was at the time. It's called Isuzu. Now, you would never expect any cool cars from Isuzu, at least I wouldn't have, and if you're anything like me, you will be devastated, or more rather shocked, to hear that they developed something that was actually cool. And it came before the ae86 Corolla. They started its production in 1983, and it was called the Isuzu Impulse. You could even say that Isuzu kind of created it on an impulse. Okay, I'm sorry. Moving on. It was developed by an Italian designer. I cannot pronounce his name, so I'm going to just write it on the screen. But he's also the original designer of the original BMW M1. And he was given free reign to build this car however he wanted. The only regulation that Isuzu gave him was it had to be based on the Isuzu Gemini. And that's just not a lot of free will. Like, there's only so much you can do with such an ugly chassis, but man, oh man, did this guy really redeem it in every way he could. The hatchback styling is just on point, and it has waffle wheels. Now, to get into some of the numbers of this car, it has a 90 horsepower inline four longitudinally mounted 5-speed transmission, and it's really similar to the Toyota ae86 Corolla in that way. And it's light, and it's made as like a little sports enthusiast car with good handling. That kind of the same way as the ae86 Corolla was marketed. But unfortunately for Isuzu, they were smaller at the time and did not have the marketing budget Toyota did, nor did they have the reputation and legendary status that Toyota had. So Isuzu kind of struggled in the beginning with this because it was unlike what they were selling okay in the truck industry. And then they tried to make a sports car, and like, it just wasn't what people had trust in them for. You know, you have to build trust with the customer before you sell them something. This has been true for all of time. So they were having a hard time selling it, to say the least. And for the first 3 years, it was only domestic in Australia, and I think the UK got it as well. And it wasn't in America until 1986, I believe. I could be wrong, 1986. And so kind of when the Toyota 86 came out. And they didn't sell that many in the US. But when they did change it to sell in the US, it's kind of funny. They had to make that dimensions of like around an inch wider or bigger and larger in all dimensions because Americans are larger and fatter. And so they're like, you're not going to fit into our little car, so we got to make it bigger for them, which is kind of a shame on us in a way. But I guess you could say it's because of height, even though we kind of know it's not because of height. Anyway, regardless, they made this car a little bit bigger for us, and it wasn't selling well in the US. It wasn't selling well anywhere in the world. But at least they tried to market the US with an American actor named David Leisure. And they said, hey man, can you just like promote our car a little bit, say some nice things about it? I mean, like, hey, you're pretty popular and maybe you can help us out. He's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll help you out. But David Leisure just took this and ran with it. He took the idea of marketing this car and just started making up some astronomical lies about the handling, performance, and capabilities of this thing. And Isuzu probably had their trust hurt more than anything. And honestly, it probably hurt their sales more than it helped them. And so, with the last 3 years of its production, they knew they had to do something. It was around 1990, I believe. And Isuzu goes to Lotus, who was owned by GM at the time, like, yo, we need to make this actual sports car that people will want to buy because no one's wanting to buy it the way it is. So, can you throw some of your track gadgets at it, completely overhaul our suspension, do the chassis? Can you just help us out? Because we're struggling. And so Lotus like, yeah, we'll do what we can. So Lotus overhauls all the handling, performance, capabilities, all that stuff. And we're introduced to the second generation of the Isuzu Impulse. And this is also sold in the US and around the world. But it doesn't help the sales at all. The sale numbers stay about the same. And so it just fails to be received by the American market. And so after a 10-year run, which was kind of a notable effort on Isuzu's try. Like, most people would have given up in a year or two with how bad the sales were. But they tried so hard to muscle through it. And after 10 years, they decided to call it wraps on the project. And so the super cool waffle wheel doppelganger of the Toyota 86 ceased production in 1993, 10 years after its production began. And throughout all of those years of production, throughout both generations, and globally across all makes and models made across the entire world, there was only 13,000 models made. And the thing is, that number is extremely limited because a lot of those are now rusted, clapped out, just destroyed, parted out these days. So there really isn't that many left, especially in the US. And they're not that expensive either, though. They're less than 10 grand for one in good condition if you can find one in the US. And a lot of YouTubers will make this list or this review about this car, and they'll say it's a really cool car and you should go buy it. And then they'll never buy it themselves, even if they have the opportunity to. But I'm telling you, if I have the money and I see it for sale, you know 100% without a doubt that I will be buying that car. I have fallen in love with this car at first sight. It doesn't have the signature pop-ups that the Toyota 86 has, but it has these really cool eyebrows, and in a way that's just more endearing. It just gives it so much personality. A few final notes I want to make about the Isuzu Impulse is that it had a turbo option, so you did have an option for more power. However, the Isuzu Impulse, I think it was called the RS, had a sleeker design. They tried to make it look sportier, but that removed the little eyebrows. So I didn't really like that personally. So I like the design and look of the non-turbo options better. And the turbo options are even rarer than the base models. However, aside from like that turbo option, they came automatically with all the bells and whistles. There wasn't a whole lot of specs, and like it just came automatically with everything, which is really dope actually. You can get all the features. And one last thing, the designer, when he made this car, he kind of was seeing into the future. He tried to make it so that all the controls were like reachable and controllable from the driver's seat at the steering wheel. And so it's got like these big chunky plastic boxes with all these buttons, but it's so cool. And honestly, it's kind of like what we have now, but in a little bit of a less sophisticated and futuristic way. Thank you guys so much for watching it. If you guys are like me and think this car is amazing, I would really love to hear what you guys think about it in the comment section below. Also, I'm not going to ask you guys to subscribe. I am a nobody, and I totally understand that. However, I do want to make my content better for you guys. So I listened to some of your comments last video. I said that the mic quality was pretty bad. And I know that the camera and lighting quality was pretty bad. And it's not that good in this video either. I will continue to be working on those things. But if you guys have any suggestions for how I can make my videos better, or for other cars you guys want me to make videos about, I would sincerely appreciate it. You guys can leave now if you don't want to hear me yap for another minute. But I want to tell you guys a little bit about what my channel really is, because I don't think I've really done that. I kind of want this channel to be like gateway in the motorsport for brokies, because if you guys are anything like me, you guys love cars, but like these YouTubers YouTubers and social media are just blowing the expectations out of the water. Like, the ordinary person cannot do that, right? Especially a young car enthusiast that's just trying to make it with how crazy inflation is for this generation. So if you guys appreciate motorsport on a budget, that's kind of what I want this all to be. So it's not going to all be like talking to the camera videos about cool cars. I actually have a C5 Corvette that I'm selling soon. And I'm actually buying a race car. That's a huge sneak peek, but if you stuck around for it, I think you guys deserve to hear it. And it's a race car that I think everyone can buy. And so I'm just really excited for the future. And if that sounds exciting for you guys, again, I'm not gonna ask you to subscribe, but maybe come back in a couple months and check out to see what's going on here, because I'm gonna continue to upload weekly, and I can't wait for you guys to join the family. I do this out of love and passion and no other alternative reasons. And so I'm going to continue doing this for basically all my life, even if I stay at 220 subscribers. So with that, guys, I thank you all so much. Stay blessed. I love you. And save up for an Isuzu Impulse. But you'll have to fight me on the auction house for it. All right, see you guys.